Question number two, Valerie Harjo at Guardian Lending. Valerie, being pre-approved, how important in this market and how deep do we go? How does this help my offer in the market? Okay, so when buyers are going to get pre-approved with you, we know that's important, but I hear a lot of them, it's like, oh, I don't want to be digging out all my paperwork and going through all that. And I just rather look at houses, and if I see something that I like, then I'll get pre-approved. So talk a little bit about this with me.
For sure. And nobody likes meeting with the banker, for sure. It's not as much fun as looking at houses. I would rather look at houses as well. But the really important piece to purchasing a house is having a loan. Unless you are a cash buyer, you're going to need some financing. And financing, like we have talked about, is really looking at the ability to repay that mortgage. And again, buyers, as all of us, have a different understanding of what our income looks like, what our debts are. We live with it every day. We usually live off our net income as far as what we actually, whoever thinks about what the gross income is. And if you're self-employed, that's a whole other different conversation. So to me, in order to give that a couple things, the buyer the greatest opportunity for getting their offer accepted, for you as my realtor to really know that you have a solid pre-approval behind you. It's really super important that what I am giving you with my signature on it is a solid overview that they can be approved for that loan. That really, pending a great appraisal, we're going to close on that loan. And so I really, really do encourage and work with my buyers that we're going to go deep on that. We are going to dig into that documentation. You're going to need to do it anyway. And it's so much easier to do in the pre-approval timeline than it is in that 30 or 40 days of closing. So we don't want any surprises. I have always had about 100% success rate on the buyer side. And you know me, I will not just write a pre-qualification letter without asking for that buyer's documentation. It also really makes the buyer committed to this process. They need to know what their payment's going to look like. They need to know that they can afford this house. And it's a part of what a lender says a borrower can approve for, but it's also what the buyer feels they can afford to pay. And those are not always on the same page. So I just really encourage buyers to just, we try to make it easy. We can do a lot of things online. They can upload documents to secure links. We really try to help walk them through, whether it's how to retrieve documentations online, what links you can get some documents if you don't have them handy. But it's going to save a lot of stress and emotional pain if we get all of that done before they step into your car or meet you at a property. And it's going to be a win-win in that situation for that client and for the realtor as well.
And here's another thing too. Being the agent representing the buyer, there are some agents who want to know, have your people been pre-qualified? I mean, like even before showing the property, certainly when you have presented an offer. So this is not just whether the buyer feels like they want to do it or not do it. This is a bit of a requirement sometimes, certainly at some property price points, where this is something that you're going to have to do in order just to go look at the property. So, well, so help, and then how is this helping them when they write an offer? So when you're presenting the offer, you've got the pre-qualification letter. In my mind, this has shown a level of commitment from the buyer that they have done some work elevating them above perhaps some other offers, correct?
So a couple things on that, for sure. I think to your point that time is something that we all want more of at any given moment. And for real estate agents and for buyers and listing agents as well and sellers, it's really important that when they are looking at properties that, we don't really have a lot of room for tire kickers in our industry anymore. Everyone's time is important. And so having a pre-approved buyer coming through property really shows the due diligence. It's a big commitment. It's a huge financial obligation. And it's, I think, it should be treated that way. It's not HGTV, flip that house every day. We're actually dealing with human being lives, and it's important that we respect that. And as a loan officer, I feel that it's very important that when a buyer is going to look at a house, that it is something that I know that they can afford. There's a lot of times, as you know, there's a lot of things about people's lives. Sometimes I tell people, like, we all have really messy lives. And so job history and employment type and how they get paid, and did they have gaps in their employment? What does their assets look like? Did they get large deposits? Those are, again, all of the things that can trip up a loan if we haven't dealt with it initially. So those are not the kinds of surprises we want when they're in contract and they're spending appraisal money and inspection money. So it's really, I think, a reputational thing as well. I mean, my personal reputation is I do not write pre-qualification letters if I have not gone on that deep dive, because it's really not worth the paper it's printed on. So it's super important, I think, in this market, especially as it's very competitive, that you can present your offer with that pre-approval letter that is very, very confidently supported, that this buyer, assuming all things continue on a good path in that process, are going to result in a closed sale for all parties involved. I think that's a really important thing. So it's a commitment, it's a level, it's a financial decision. For most people, the biggest financial decision they'll ever make in their life. And so it does really lend itself to being one that is taken with a really high level of due diligence, I think.
Excellent. Valerie, thank you so much.